Good morning to all my valence electrons. I'm so glad you're here on this Saturday. I know it's actually a maths weekend, but next week it is the science weekend. So I'm so glad you do attend. Mrs. Venter started the paper already, so I'm going to continue by doing question 3, 4, and 5. And then if there's time left, we're going to do some multiple choice as well. Okay, now question 3 is about vertical projectile motion. So that's objects falling. Here you need equations of motion from grade 10 as well as the graphs from grade 10. The only difference is in grade 10 you did it horizontally and now in grade 12 you do it vertically. I'm going to do all my calculations with up as positive. So I stay with the axis like in maths also. So if that's your axis in maths, then this y-axis is positive, x is positive, y is negative, and x is negative. So I keep on doing all my calculations by using up and to the right as positive. So I don't change direction. And please remember, if you want to change the direction, please indicate it to us, because otherwise it's very difficult to mark. Okay, 3.1. I'm not going to write all the definitions. Here is 2 definitions that you must know. The one definition is free fall, and the other one is vertical projectile motion. We always ask one of the 2. The only difference is when I have my pen for free fall, I just open my hand and it drops to the ground. So that is free fall. The initial velocity is 0. It just falls to the ground. If I want to project it, then it means I must throw it. I can either throw it downwards or I can throw it upwards. But remember, my pen can't go up into the air with a 0 initial velocity. Even if I ask it nicely, it's not going to happen. Okay, so projecting upwards, I must project it, but downwards, I can just let it fall or project it downwards. Okay, so the definition, please know free fall and please know vertical projectile. 3.2.1. Calculate the magnitude of the initial velocity v of the ball. Okay, now I like to sort my data before I do the calculation. So I like to draw a table like this. I teach my grade 10s that as well. I put it in any order, VF, VI, A, delta T, and in this case, delta Y. So I like to sort my data. A ball is thrown vertically upwards with a velocity V from the edge of a roof of a 40-meter tall building. So that means delta Y can be 40 meters. But please remember, it can be 40 meters upwards or 40 meters downwards. So it can be a plus or a minus 40 depending on your direction. The ball takes 1.53 seconds to reach its maximum height. Okay, boys and girls, if you see maximum height, then the final velocity equals 0. So the final velocity is 0. Ignore air friction. I want this formula and, I want this value, and A is negative 9.8 because I've chosen up as positive. So I'm going to keep it with up as positive. So if I see my formula, I'm going to use VF equals VI plus A delta T. So that's my formula for my information sheet. The other thing, boys and girls, if you look at your information sheet, that formula with the brackets, delta Y equals VI plus VF divided by 2 delta T. That formula, you don't use it when doing vertical projectile, because that formula is only for constant velocity. So you don't do that formula in vertical projectile, except when you do a hot air balloon. So only for a hot air balloon, you can remember that brackets is like fat brackets, and a hot air balloon is always fat in the picture. So they go together. But you don't use that formula in vertical projectile. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to use this formula. My VF is 0. I want to calculate VI. A is negative 9,8 and delta T is 1,53. And then I get my VI 14,99 meters per second. And please, boys and girls, don't round it to 15. There's a difference between 14,99 and 15. You won't believe it, but that will make someday, when you build the bridge is just 1 centimeter too short to fit over the road. 1 centimeter is 1 centimeter, so please, that is very, very important. 3.2.2. The maximum height, now I must use delta Y. The maximum height reached by the ball above the edge of the roof. Read carefully, not above the ground, above the edge of the roof. You can choose any formula now with delta Y in it. I like to do VF squared equals VI squared plus 2A delta Y. The final velocity is still 0 because they still say it's maximum height. So final velocity is 0. You just calculated 4,99 squared plus 2 times negative 9,8 and delta Y. Okay, so you have on this side negative 14,99 squared equals negative 19,6 delta Y. And then your delta Y will give you 11,46 meters. Okay, so you calculated now the part above the building. So please remember, they say from the edge of the roof, so you stop there. But please, now it's very important. Delta Y is a vector quantity. What did they ask? They ask height. So you must now write maximum height equals 11,46 meters. If you don't do that last part, then you won't get the third mark because you didn't answer the question. In this case, it is the same value because it is in a straight line. But delta Y is a vector quantity and they ask the scalar quantity. So that is very important. You must please do that translation for us. Otherwise, you're not going to get the third mark. Okay, especially in question 3, this one wasn't that difficult because there's not 2 balls moving. But as soon as there's 2 balls, please make sure your directions are correct. For the last 5 years, I've been marking this question 3 in the final exam. So please remember direction, direction, direction. So when I tell you what's wrong with question 3, I'm going to say, just get direction. Okay. Even my Afrikaans kids, I always tell them, no, there's a lot of problems with question 3. And I told them, firstly, just get direction. So get direction and do question 3. Okay, then 3.3, now they ask, take the edge of the roof as your reference point. Boys and girls, there's different reference points. It can be the ground. Then it means I'm standing on the ground, you're standing on the roof, and I'm looking what you are doing up there. That's my reference point. Yours is you're standing on the roof, and I'm down there, and you throw the ball to me down there. So that is your reference point. It's just your starting point of the calculation. Take the edge of the roof as reference point. Determine the position of the ball relative to the edge of the roof after 4 seconds. Okay, so my formula, delta Y, because I must determine a position, delta Y, VI delta T plus a half A delta T squared. I did calculate my initial velocity, 14,99. Okay, before I continue, just for the picture, there's your roof. So the ball will go up until maximum height, and now it's going to turn. So they want to know where I am now somewhere downwards, because that took 1,53 seconds to get to maximum height. So I know I'm somewhere on my way down. I don't know where, but on my way down. Okay, 14,99 times 4 plus a half minus 9,8 and 4 squared. So please make sure your directions are correct. Now I get 18,44 meters and determine position. Position again a scalar value. So I'm going to write position equals 18,44 meters on the way down. I'm not just going to write downwards, because a position, position can be a scalar value also, but in this case I must say where I am, because that is what the question asks. Determine the position of the ball relative to the edge of the roof. So I must tell that I'm on my way down. So that's important. Okay, 3.4, will any of the answers to question 3.2 and 3.2 change if the height of the building is now only 30 meters instead of 40? The answer will be no. Okay, but now it counts 3 marks, so I can't just write no. Boys and girls, in science, if they ask yes or no, and you don't know, you must write no. The answer will be no. And the chance that something will stay the same is not good. Only thing that stays the same is mu k at friction, but so if you have to choose something, don't choose stay the same and don't choose yes. Okay, choose no, and it doesn't stay the same. Okay, the answer is no. But what do I need now for this question? The initial velocity must be the same. The initial velocity stays the same. And the other thing that's important is the time must be the same. The initial velocity and the time must be the same. The height of the building doesn't matter now for this questions that was asked in this case. Okay, so in this case, it was question 3. Not that difficult because there was only 1 ball. Okay, let's look at question number 4. Boys and girls, question number 4 is on momentum. That is supposed to be easy marks. But I don't know, through all the years, kids always struggle with momentum, and I don't know why. Because momentum is supposed to be really easy. Momentum and Doppler effect is supposed to be the questions where you obtain a lot of marks. Okay, just before I do the question, just quickly, if I go through momentum as topic, if I just ask momentum is just P equals M times V. And what is important about momentum? Momentum is a vector quantity. So everything except mass must have a direction. So again, please just get the direction. Okay. Momentum, P equals M times V. But this is for a single object. Then I can get the change in momentum. When I get the change in momentum, I write delta P. And as soon as I write delta, I must subtract things from each other. And that is M delta V. Please don't write the delta in front of the M, because then you say the mass changes. The delta must be in front of the v because the velocity changes. And then it becomes m vf minus vi. Okay, so that's called change in momentum. Also, a single object. So there can be a car and a truck in a collision. Then you must calculate delta P for either the truck or the car, not for both of them. Then you have impulse. Impulse is not like body spray that you spray under your arms. That is not what I understand about impulse. Impulse can either be delta P or it can be F net delta T. So if they want to calculate impulse, it's one of the two, depending on what information you have. On your information sheet, the formula will be F net delta T equals delta P. So that's your formula. In a momentum question, not in this case, but in a momentum question, when I ask you to discuss, like, why must a car have airbags? Then you use this formula to lead your discussion. Every discussion in physical science must contain a formula. So that's very important. Every discussion must contain a formula. So if I like to discuss airbags or bubble wrap or things like that, I'm going to use this formula. Okay, and then the other thing is the conservation of momentum. If they say conservation of linear momentum, conservation of momentum, it's the same thing because at school level, we're just moving in straight lines. Here we have sigma. And that sign on the edges, it must be sharp. That's sigma. Sigma pi equals sigma pf. Okay, and very important, please put in that I and f there. Don't just say sigma p equals sigma p. We want to know which one is before and which one is after. You must be very specific. And then the most difficult thing is to decide, do I have one object beforehand and two after the collision, or two before, two after, two before, one after? That's your decisions that you have to make to use the definition. So I'm going to use this now in doing the calculation, but that's what you have to know about momentum. Okay, so let's take the question. 4.1, it's a definition. So please know there's three definitions that you have to know here. The one is conservation of momentum. The other one is just momentum. And the third one is impulse. So please know those definitions. Boys and girls, and I know some of you just think you can just pitch up and start writing physical science. You can't do that. Why is science more difficult than maths? Because there's a lot of learning work present in science. And the important thing is you must know your definitions to be able to do the calculations. And if you just read carefully, we tell you exactly what information to use. If they say it's conservation of momentum, it means in the next calculation you must use that formula. So we tell you the formulas. You must just read carefully. Okay, 4.2. There's a collision. So as soon as you see the word collision, you know it's momentum. Okay, now they say, calculate the magnitude of the velocity of the ball container system immediately after the collision. So this whole thing was about the soccer player kicking a ball. So initially we had the ball and the container, two objects. Afterwards, the ball is stuck inside the container, so that moves as 1. Okay, so now, because 4.1 said conservation of momentum, 4.2 is now using it. So I'm going to say sigma pi equals sigma pf. That is written, the formula written out in symbol form. Beforehand, two objects. So I'm going to name them, you can name them 1 and 2, A and B, whatever. M1 Vi1 plus M2 Vi2 equals, and afterwards they stuck together, so it will be M1 plus M2 times Vf. So they were 2 before, and they just became 1 after. You must use that bottom VIs, VFs, the 1 and the 2s. It must be there. Okay, so now I put in the values. M1 will be 0.45 times 9. And the 9 was moving to the right, so it's positive 9. Initially, the container was at rest, so it was standing still. You have to put in the zeros, because zeros gets marks. Our physics people are really nice. We give you marks for writing nothing. Okay. But that nothing must be a 0. If you leave open the page, I'm also giving you a nothing. Okay. Okay. Other nothing, but that 0 must be there, otherwise you can't get the mark. Then, on the other hand, okay, now I must remember, if you have your M1 now as 0.45, on the other side, it must be 0.45 again, and the container is 0.2. Please don't add them together already. We want to see that you do the addition. Don't do it in your head. I know it's easy, but please don't do it. We want to see it. Okay, and then I must calculate VF. So I take 0.45 times 9 divided by 0.65, and I get VF as 6.23 meters per second. Okay, now in this case, they say the magnitude of the velocity. So now I stop here. If they just say the velocity, then I have to do the interpretation of the direction. And please, boys and girls, if they started in the calculation with east and west, you can't write right and left. You must take their direction. If they don't give you a direction, then you can choose any direction. The other thing that's important, if this answer was -6, then you must interpret it into +6 if they ask magnitude. Magnitude is always a positive number. So I don't go to the shop and buy -6 chocolates. I buy 6 chocolates. Okay, so magnitude means it's always a positive number. So even if you get -6, because this is a vector sum, that means you're going to interpret it as a positive. Okay, 4.3. Determine by means of a suitable calculation whether the collision between the ball and container is elastic or inelastic. Boys and girls, again, if you want to guess, the answer is inelastic. Okay, it's really like there must be something very special for it to be elastic. Because then it means if I drive with my car and I hit a lamppost, then I'm going to bump back, the lamppost is going to be upright, and there's nothing wrong with my car or the lamppost. Okay, that's not going to happen. Okay. So, if you want to choose, the answer will be inelastic. Okay, now what must I do? I must calculate separately. That's important. Separately, I must calculate the total kinetic energy before, and I must calculate the total kinetic energy after, and I must make a conclusion. Okay, so you can't say from the start they equal to each other. You must make a conclusion. So I'm going to say sigma EKI. That's initial. Now initially I had my VI number 1 squared, that's the 1, and I had the box. Okay, so I had 2 objects beforehand. Although one was standing still, it doesn't matter. I had 2 objects before. So I'm going to say it's a half. The mass is 0.45 and 9 squared plus 0 because the one was standing still. And boys and girls, please remember to square. That's very, very important. You can lose a lot of marks if you don't square. Or if you don't square, maybe the two values will then be equal, and then you're going to make the wrong conclusion because then you're going to say elastic. So please, it's important, you must square. Okay, this is 18,225 joule. Okay, I'm just going to keep it like that because I haven't made a conclusion yet. So I'm just going to keep it with all the numbers. And then I'm going to say sigma EK final. Afterwards, I just had one object and not two anymore. So it's a half. It was 0.45 plus 0.2, and they were moving at 6.3 squared. That was the answer of 4.2 that I'm having now. And now I get 12.61 joule. Please don't leave it at that. You must make a conclusion. So now I'm going to say the sigma EKI is not equal to sigma EK final. And therefore it is inelastic. Okay, if they are equal, but then they must be exactly equal. So the one can't be 18,225 and the other one 18,125. Then they're not equal. They must be exactly equal for them to be equal and to be elastic. But if you want to guess inelastic. Okay, but now, if you just guessed inelastic and you didn't do a calculation, we're not going to award the mark. Because they said, determined by means of a calculation. So you have to do a calculation, but elastic and inelastic, it's all about kinetic energy. Boys and girls, and just on that note, closed system versus isolated system. In physics, it is isolated system. Because then you can't transfer materials, you can't transfer energy. If it's closed system, then you can't transfer the particles, but you can transfer energy. That is endo and exothermic reactions. So please remember, all physics, isolated system. All chemistry, closed system. Okay, and in this case, this was the end of question 4. Okay, let's look at question number 5. That's my favorite question. I love question 5, work, energy, and power. Boys and girls, when you came here early this morning, you did already work, energy, and power. Except Newton's laws also, but it was cold. You rubbed your hands together. And there I explained the whole chapter. That's easy. I can explain the whole chapter just by doing this, because what I do, I put my hands together and I rub them, so I must do work. What happens? My hands become what? That is energy transfer. I transferred heat energy. And if I do it like this, maybe by lunch my hands will be warm. But if I do it like this, very fast, that is power, because it is the rate of energy transfer. So the whole chapter. Okay, easy. Okay, in this chapter you must read very carefully. That's the problem. Okay, a 70 kilogram box. Okay, boys and girls, before I read anything further, when I see a slope, I already write, remember FG parallel. I don't know if I'm going to use it, and I draw it in FG parallel. FG parallel is always down the slope, it can't be up the slope. Because otherwise it means if I release my car brake, it will go uphill by itself. It's not going to happen. Okay, FG parallel, down the slope. Please remember, so I don't know what's the rest of the question, but that is the part that I must do. Okay, 70 kilogram blocks is initially at rest at the position of a rough plane. Okay, now I must just see if it's rough, then there's going to be friction. But I don't know if the friction is up or down the slope. I must see the direction first of the block. Okay, but I've just indicated it for me. Inclined at an angle of 30 degrees to the horizontal. The box is pulled up. Okay, so if the box is pulled up, then I know friction is downhill. And it's pulled, so this is my applied force. And please don't write F-app. You must write out the word applied. The box is pulled up the plane by means of a light, inextensible rope held parallel to the plane as shown in the diagram below. The force applied to the rope is 700 newtons. Okay, 5.1. What is the name given to the force in the rope? The force in the rope will be tension. We call it tension. It's a tension in a string. And tension in a string is a scalar quantity, so it doesn't need a direction. 5.2. Give a reason why the mechanical energy of the system will not be conserved as the box is pulled up the plane. So mechanical energy is only conserved in the absence of friction. But now they say it's a rough plane, so we're going to say there is friction present. So there's friction. So that's very important, there's friction. So mechanical energy is only when there's no friction. Okay, 5.3. The box is pulled up over a distance of 4 meters along the plane. The kinetic frictional force between the box and the plane is 178,22 Newton. Draw a labeled free body diagram for the box as it moves up the plane. Right, so I'm going to, you don't have to draw in the slope, it just makes it easier to see because your normal force must be perpendicular to the plane. Then you must make sure your lines are perpendicular, are parallel to the plane. So that one will be Fk, this one will be F applied written out, and then vertical downwards, parallel to your margin, vertical downwards, Fg, or then a small w for weight. Okay, so that is your diagram. I just want to show you an important thing that they said in the grade 11 memo discussion. If they ask you a force diagram, so that means then you have to draw a block. But now the forces must start at the correct places for you to get the mark. So if you have a force diagram, gravity must be from the middle of your block. Okay, so it's not part of this answer. I just want to show you what is important because they stressed it somehow. So I'm just wondering. Okay, but gravitation must always be from the middle of the block. The normal force must be from the surface upwards. So it doesn't start in the middle, it starts on the surface. Then the Fk must be at the bottom because the friction is between the surface and the object. So there's your Fk. Okay, and then your applied force, there's your F applied. So please just make sure if it's a force diagram that you start on the correct place, at the correct place. But okay, luckily this one is just a free body diagram. Boys and girls, this is easy marks. Please don't leave it open. And don't draw the components in. No components are allowed. Okay, 5.5. Yeah, sorry, yes, I skipped some, sorry. First 5.4. Calculate the work done on the box by the frictional force. Okay, we have the formula W equals F delta X cos theta. But now, what is important, the W and the F must fit each other. So I'm just going to put it in pink. You're not going to write it in your exam paper. But those two must fit each other. So if they ask the work done by friction, that means you must use your frictional force. They must fit each other. You can't use the net force. You must use frictional force if you want to work out the work done by friction. And now, energy is scalar quantities. So no directions. Okay, so the F must be a positive number of 178,22. So that's important. You're not going to put in a negative because it is friction. It must be a positive number. We call it an absolute value. It's a positive number. The delta X is also positive. That is 4 meters. And now, that cos theta gives you the direction. Cos theta can only be 0 degrees or 180 degrees. That's the only thing it can be. It can be nothing else. Just 0 or 180. So now, if I go and use my hands, the block is going up, but friction is going down. My hands are on the opposite side, so that means it's going to be cos 180. When I can put my hands together like this, it is cos 0. But otherwise, it's cos 180. So now, if I get this answer, I get negative 712,88 joules, because that is what I lost. But lost is the wrong word, because you don't lose energy. It was transferred into heat energy. But it's not available for me to use anymore, but it's not lost, it is transferred into heat. Then 5.5, use energy principles. Boys and girls, if I tell you energy principles, then there's no Newton and there's no equations of motion. So that means you're not allowed, there's no Newton, no equations of motion. You're not allowed to use Newton to calculate the F net. Okay, so that's very important. You can't use, if they say only energy principles, it's no Newton, it's no equations of motion. To calculate the speed of the box after it has moved 4 meters. Okay, it counts 5 marks. You're just going to do one calculation, but one very long calculation. Okay, now what I like to do in this instance, I'm going to use W net equals delta EK. I'm not going to use WNC because I don't have the height of the slope. But I can work it out with trigonometry if I really want to, but I don't want to today. Okay, so W net is delta EK. Now what I do, I don't put in now F net delta X cos theta because I'm not allowed to calculate F net by using Newton. So I'm going to do it differently and say WG parallel plus W friction plus W applied equals delta EK. So I'm taking the sum of all the work done, I'm taking them each one separately. So now I'm going further and say FG parallel delta X cos theta. So I'm writing for each of them their own expression. Okay, W friction. I'm not going to recalculate it because I already got 3 marks for that. I'm just going to put in that number minus 712,88. It's a minus because that energy is not available in my system anymore. W, now I'm going to say F applied delta X cos theta, and that equals half mv final squared minus half mv initial squared. Sure, that's a very long formula, but that's my formula I'm going to use. Okay, now if I put in the numbers, if they say it was constant velocity, then delta Ek equals 0. Just remember, Ek is not 0, but delta Ek is 0 if it's constant velocity. But in this case, it wasn't constant velocity because I have to calculate the speed at the top. Okay, now, Fg parallel. Just again, a note in pink, that will be mg sine theta. So Fg parallel is mg sine theta. So I'm going to put it in. It's 70 minus 9,8 minus sine 30 degrees. Okay, now I've only put in Fg parallel. Now I need another delta x, which is 4, and I need cos. And now remember, cos cannot be 30 degrees. It is the angle between f and delta x, which is 180 in this case. Minus 712,88 plus my applied force is 700 times 4 times cos 0 degrees. I've written now a bit bigger so that you can see, so I'm just going to continue here. Equals half. The mass of the block is 70. I want to calculate the final velocity minus 0 because the initial velocity was 0 because they said initially at rest. So it was standing still. Okay, so I put everything into my calculator. That minus that plus that divided by half times 70 and square the answer. And then I got 4,52 meters per second. If it's easier for you, work out each bracket separately and then you can put it in again. Just remember, then you can make more mistakes. So that's why I like to put everything into my calculator at once and just get the answer, because you don't get marks for doing maths. You get marks for the science. Going to get a mark on the formula, and then you get marks on the substitution and marks on the answer. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you're not going to get marks for all the maths that you do. We want marks for the science. Okay, 5.6 they say, when the box is 4 meters up the incline, the rope accidentally breaks, causing the block to slide back down to the bottom of the inclined plane. What will be the total work done by friction when the box moves up and then down to the bottom of the inclined plane? Boys and girls, energy, work done are scalar quantities. So that means my one part is 712,88. So when the box was moving up, that was the value downwards. Now the box is moving down, so that will be my exact value upwards. The answer can't be 0 because work done is a positive value. And this gives me 1425,76 joules. I'm just going to write there in brackets, work done is a scalar. Work done is a scalar quantity. Why do I use the same value again? It's the same box. So that means it's still 70 box. G is the same, 9,8. It is the same slope. So that means my normal force stays the same. My mu k stays the same because it's the same slope. So that means it will be the same value. Just in the opposite direction, but now it is a scalar quantity. Okay, boys and girls, I'm going to do some of the multiple choice with you. So I'm not going to do question 6, I want to do some of the multiple choice. Boys and girls, to do multiple choice, you must treat it as a question from section B. So that means it's like a longer question. Close up all the answers, work out your own answer, and then compare it. It's not like doing multiple choice. Some of you do it like you have a rubber. On the one side it says A, and the other side B, and then you flick it and say, ah, the answer is B. Next time, oh, now's the answer C. No, man. And boys and girls, the other thing, if you want to choose, if you want to guess in physical science, the answer is not C. Okay. Why is the answer not C? Because we don't like to do what every other subject does, so we don't want it. It's the same as we don't choose C. If you want to guess, it will be B or D. That will be your guesses, not C. It will be B or D. It's the same when I hear on the radio that when you walk into a shop, they looked at the people and they see when you walk in a shop, most of the people always moves to their right. And then they put all the specials on the right because then it's the first thing that you see. So what do I do when I get into a shop? I walk to the left. Okay. Or straight on, but not to the right. It's just I don't like to be that typical person that they study. I want to be the outsider. Okay. Let's look at the questions. When I look at question 1.1, so if I look at my multiple choice, if I see the word constant velocity, that means some things to me. Constant velocity means that A equals 0. It means that F net equals 0 because F net are directly proportional to A. So if A is 0, F net must be 0. If I'm at energy, delta EK is 0. It can also mean to me equilibrium. Okay, so just by seeing the words constant velocity, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 options that I have to answer this question. Okay, now in this case there's no calculation. A car is moving at constant velocity. Which one of the following statements about the forces acting on the car is correct? The net force acting on the car is 0. Okay, that was one of my options. Just read the others. There are no forces acting on the car. Now, the weight of the car is equal to the normal force acting on the car. The car is moving horizontally. So that doesn't matter. They are going to be equal, but that won't give me constant velocity. There is a non-zero net force acting on the car. Now, that's wrong because then it will accelerate. So the answer in this case is A. Okay, 1.2. A ball is projected vertical upwards, ignore air resistance. Which one of the following statements about the acceleration at maximum height? Boys and girls, this is the one that you get wrong most of the time. Because you say that acceleration at the top is 0. If that is true, that means if I jump up in the air, I'm going to stay there and never return again. Because then you tell me that the earth stops attracting me. That's not true. If I go up, I must come down also. So the acceleration at the top, g equals 9.8 meters per second squared downwards. The velocity at the top is 0 because you stop before you come down. But the acceleration is not 0. Okay, so now I must just choose acceleration. The answer is not A. It's G and it's directed downwards. There's my answer. 1.2 will be B. Okay, so please remember acceleration can't be 0 because then the earth stops attracting you. Then you're going to fall off or not come back. So please, it can't be 0. Okay, I'm going to finish up with 1.3. That is a nice one. It has a graph. Boys and girls, we were told that 6 of your 10 questions at the end of the year will contain a graph. Okay, so graphs is a given. 6 out of 10 questions will contain graphs. Okay, now they say the graph below not drawn to scale. No graph will be drawn to scale if it's not on graph paper. Okay. The graph below not drawn to scale shows the relationship between the gravitational force on a given mass and its distance from the center of the Earth. The magnitude of the force on the mass at a distance r from the center is F. So I'm busy now with this formula. F equals G m1 m2 over r squared. That's my formula that I'm going to use. Okay, the other thing that's important, the G, the M stays constant. So that means F is inversely proportional to r squared. Now they say, which one of the following is the correct representation of the magnitude of the force X shown on the graph? So I want X. So if I use that dotted line, the R will be 6R. So now I'm going to say, I don't know what F, but it's directly proportional to 6R everything squared. You mustn't just square the 6 or just the R, you must square 6R. So it's 1 over 36R squared. So that means 1 over 36, 1 over R squared. So I'm comparing it to that one. So my right-hand side becomes 36 times smaller. So my left-hand side must also become 36 times smaller. So the answer will be D. Okay, so that's very important. You must understand that relationship and you must remember to square. So boys and girls, good luck for next week, Friday. Then you're going to do the physics. And then Saturday, the chemistry, and write chemistry on Monday. Thank you.